Further change in my voice. Right now I hear like a high-pitched sound in my right ear, which is clogged after being fumed. It's like a TV sound, right? Rather like a staticky sound. And it seems to be messing up my brain. And it's consistent with what the Havana syndrome victims were talking about. And a lot of them were reporting similar symptoms without really knowing each other, without contacting each other, and around the same time. So between that and the 23 witnesses I have on record to the harassment campaign against me, it's open and shut. And so I had to drive out again. They messed up my car, so it's not good for me to drive out 2 times in a day because I live in unincorporated Morgan Hill, and the fumes or whatever they're doing seems to also take its toll on my car and cause it to overheat more often. So as you look at the various symptoms, right, look at the other videos I released today, okay, you see that it's clear that there's a bunch of stuff they're doing that would provoke somebody. Right? For example, if your car broke down, you'd probably get pissed off or you'd feel some kind of way. They try to mimic a bunch of things like that in one's life, right? They try to bring those things into, mimic the feelings rather, okay? And so the person is like, wants to scream, right? And then they sexually harass me and they come at me with racial arguments, they troll in the comments, what have you, and it causes me to feel the desire to chastise them. Now imagine if you're living in South Africa, right? Okay, during the apartheid regime. To explain what's going on, you'd have to say that there's a certain racial system. If you wanted to do a good job, you'd have to bring up the whites, Jews, and LGBT community. If you really did your research and you connected it to the Club of Rome and the various social clubs that obviously, like college frats, have a kind of gay parade theme, right? A kind of Pinky in the Brain gay parade theme. Okay, like the Freemasons and so on. It's kind of, this is for people who are like losers in terms of, never growing up, people who are kind of silly. You'd also see that, there's elements of being a control freak in there, and that the military and the police and the intelligence agencies, you'd have to explain these things. And so here in America, where we have a system it's like a caste system, it's like an apartheid system. People have been talking about first-class, second-class citizens forever, like Bob Marley. We see that system is here in place. And just when they start talking about white privilege, white guilt, white fragility, white denial, all of a sudden there's this massive campaign to stigmatize black people, right? That was being talked about, before Black Lives Matter came about, okay? And then all of a sudden this straw man group, Black Lives Matter comes about, all these kind of token minorities and these gang members who are assets for the government and the LGBT community, they start, really running distraction and creating a straw man for them, right? And we see this massive backlash, and it's also a continuity of the backlash from Obama being elected as president, right? It's like around the same time or something. And so we see this thing occur, and it's like the discussion has now ceased. People aren't talking about those things very much. You don't hear this on the news. You come across it so often on chat and in YouTube videos, right? They're talking crazy, and they're talking about, crazy ideas for the people who are mentally ill talk about. So when you see the facts being said by me, and I have 23 witnesses, right? This is solid, this is tangible, 23 witnesses on record, okay? And we see the evidence that I post and nobody cares is part of that kind of gaslighting campaign. And there's a bunch of control freaks. We all know who they are. Corporate control freaks, military, police. We all know they're out there. There's countless movies out there. It's even in popular culture. There's countless testimonies. It's out there. All the rape in the military. All these police officers getting arrested for raping and kidnapping people and doing all kinds of crazy shit all over the country, okay? There's more than one reason police officers get shot. And I'm not saying you should shoot them, but there's definitely more than one reason that people kind of get pissed off enough and they get fed up and they get pulled over and they don't respect them because of the things they've heard, the things they've experienced, right? And that's important to understand, that how you keep police officers from getting shot, you do the right thing, right? You stop gang stalking people, you stop abusing them, you stop raping them in prison and so on and so forth, right? Because when you do these things, people have a negative sentiment for police officers in general, okay? And you have to have fair laws and so on and so forth. But you all know. So let's focus on the control freaks. That's why I chose that military person's picture, right? Everyone knows there are tons of drill sergeants in the military. There's tons of officers that are control freaks. They know there's tons of police officers, okay? So why is it obvious that gang stalking exists? Because there's a bunch of control freaks everywhere, and they formed various groups and so on and so forth. Look at the political parties, a bunch of control freaks aligned together, kind of pushing people around. Every once in a while, one of them's cooler than the others, but they're a bunch of people who are hell-bent to maintain the unfair sort of apartheid-like order that we have here in America. Okay, you see the redlining and the gentrification is consistent with apartheid philosophies. Eugenics haven't come from America. Hitler was inspired by the UK, the English and the Americans, right? That's where he got the idea for eugenics from. It's just a Nazi form. The German form for them, there's an English form right now. They're deporting immigrants and stuff like that in the UK. You know why? Because they, with the other developed nations, they sabotage the undeveloped nations, cause them to come there feeling desperate. They ran psyops on them. They are responsible for their, proxy group based, they're proxy cults, right? They're cults that they were formed by the developed nations, intelligence agencies, and corporations. And those cults kind of control the behavior of the immigrants. And so, they went over there and they say, oh my gosh, look at them. They're so, the white man is sin. And you see all this crazy stuff, with Bibi Netanyahu, same thing, where he says it's civilization versus barbarism. Okay, but what they're doing is extremely barbaric. It's organized barbarism versus people who are more humane than the oppressors who have these kind of genes, right, of oppression, because epigenetics will show you that if you keep oppressing people for generations, it's like in your blood. You're cut from that cloth. It's in your genes, right? And you're like, this fanatic insistence we see didn't come overnight, right? Rome wasn't built in a day, and the neo-Roman oppressor kind of eugenic movements that we see right now didn't occur overnight. So as they make it harder for me to explain these things, know that I win. I win because life is short. And when you look back at a life of righteousness, it's far greater than looking back at a life of regrets for some fair-weather chick that's your wife or girlfriend or something, just so you can live in some modern house, which is like a glorified hut with an air conditioning system or something, okay, that's way overpriced, right? Some people pay like $5,000 a month to live in a shabby home in Oakland. I mean, it's way overpriced. It's nothing to be proud of. You go to a corporation with this laissez-faire bullshit after the board of education, gave you some degree, right? The board, right? Being bored in class, a bunch of nerds and so on and so forth, okay? Then you go and get a paycheck working for a blood money system. Your boss shits on you all day and you say, hey, at least I have a house and a family. But you shouldn't have planted your seed in the first place. So I win for so many reasons. Now, how much more did you fuck up if you're that control freak boss or you're that governing class worm, okay, who's oppressing everybody? It's the reason why when elitists die, people don't like them. No offense to the Iranians. I don't know exactly the character of the president of Iran, but when he died, a lot of people were celebrating. A lot of people are celebrating. When Queen Elizabeth died, a lot of people were celebrating. Princess Diana, a lot of people were celebrating. That's what they don't tell you, because these people have hit home with so many families so many times. I mean, even the Duke Lacrosse rape case, right? It's called Duke, right? And that's an English title, okay? So it's like, these people have raped and murdered in terms of, their governance allowing for these things, causing these things, almost certainly ordering these things at times directly to maintain power. That being an elitist is like worse than being homeless, right? It's worse than being a homeless serial killer, drug addict, and pedophile. Because it's such a monstrous thing, such an abomination. And they're going to live their one life as the most disgusting thing possible, and then they're going to die and go to hell, and they think that's winning, and they add to it persecuting me for no reason, okay? Dumber than shit. So I win for so many reasons. See how they lack the principle to justify an argument that would suggest that magically, oh my gosh, in their sick little minds that they have won something. They have lost. They were outclassed. They were just rich, kleptocratic scum whose ancestors cheated their way to power. They're way outclassed by the top martial artists ever from a long line of righteous people, right? Mr. Right, in his right mind, on his right path, doing the right thing, right? There's good and better, and I'm the best. And they're the worst, right? They're the worst. They're horrible. They're bad. They're bad at life. They're the worst at life. They're the worst types of people. And I'm the best type of person. There's only one of me in all of history, and I'm the tippy top, period. So you see, as part of my struggle to communicate this, there's no struggle to win. It's a walk in the park trampling these people. Every 5 minutes or so, a rich person or their family member dies in America, okay? While these people are persecuting me and they're living the most disgusting lives ever, and I'm living the most righteous life. How could anyone, even for a moment, in a country where the most famous symbol is Jesus on the cross, how could they even for a moment argue because I'm being persecuted that magically, that's not the case, right? It is the case. righteousness and manning up versus being some kind of Spaceballs worm, some kind of Riddler, Joker, coward, some kind of Humperdinck punk. Okay? Hey, just gang stalk him, because I'm a bitch. Gang stalk him. Yes, right away, sir. Right away. Right? It doesn't compare. They're worthless. They're foolish. They're contemptible. And I am the top. And every 5 minutes or so, that's another rich person's soul that I have stopped, that I have cut off from the land of the living, that I have marshaled to hell. My soul is so powerful at God's right hand even now, marshaling people to hell, separating the sheep from the goats, and anyone who doesn't obey God through me is a goat. So I have won. And I've told them many times, I said, look, you rich worms, if you have a viable counter argument, since you want to play fucking games, let's talk about reality. If you have a viable counter argument, state it. If you think you won, hey, put in the comments. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear about why living a long weasel, less than Schmiegel fucking rich punk life is greater than being the most righteous person ever and the top martial artist ever. Especially when you add sabotaging me out of jealousy. Your spirits are jealous. You're jealous worms. You worship Set. He's a deity of jealousy. You're fucking jealous. I'm not jealous of you. You're jealous of me. I'm the top martial artist ever. None of you are. Even together, when you put your heads together, the military, the police, your martial art, you couldn't beat me. You had to edit my videos, and you still lost. You resorted to wordplay and harassment and persecution and fuming and poisoning. And everyone on this planet knows that's a bitch move. Even you people know it. You people know to your very cores that you resorted to bitch moves while I manned up as the top martial artist ever, the most manly man ever. Period. I win.